Hello, welcome you to another great and wonderful episode of Politics of Development and Underdevelopment. Before now on this course, we have been able to study together what is development. We also went further to study stages of development, and also we went further to do justice to futures of development. Today, we'll be dealing with agents of development and underdevelopment. For this episode, we'll be dealing with foreign aid. Concept of foreign aid is used to mean foreign assistance from a country to another country, or from a particular agency to another country, or rather from an international agency to a country that is in need. The country or the agency giving the aid is always called the donor, and while the country receiving is called the recipient. This foreign aid can come in form of material or non-material assistance. You can also see it as though it comes in form of financial or material or human assistance. This is to say that foreign aid can come in form of money, humanitarian, such as medical doctors, lawyers, engineers, or material things such as food, medicine, building materials, weapons, and so on. Almost every developed nation has an aid agency through which it renders help to poor countries of the world. One of such famous agencies is United States Aid for International Development, which gives millions of dollars to poor countries of the world, particularly the African, Asian, and South American countries. Following the World War II, the Marshall Plan sent about $17 billion to European nations over a 4-year period as a panacea to rebuild the economy of the Western European nations, which have been devastated after the World War II. This was propounded by the US Secretary General George C. Marshall. That was the first type of foreign aid the international system experienced immediately after the Second World War, and this was the aid that forced the European Union into a supranational organization. This later helped lay the foundation of the modern European Union that we have today, and had no choice than to support the capitalist system that was being proposed by the United States against the proposed communist state from the USSR. A lot of countries have benefited from foreign aid, and some are still even benefiting from foreign aid. In fact, there are some countries that depend on foreign aid for some of their national budgets. As a matter of fact, the Uganda government before 2014 depends solely on America for a particular military training every year. This was cancelled alongside other aid immediately after the president Mussolini of Uganda signed a bill into law imposing harsh conditions on bisexual acts in February 2014. Although Americans claimed that they took away the aid because of their reinforcement on support on human rights, that the human right of people have to be protected irrespective of their sexual orientation. At this point, it will interest you to note that the federal government of Nigeria also participates in rendering assistance to countries under the TAC scheme. It is called Technical Aid Corps. This is a program initiated by Nigerian Foreign Ministry to assist African, Caribbean, and Pacific nations. This program ensures that doctors, teachers, lecturers are being sent from Nigeria to these countries to assist them in their human development. It is also paramount to note at this point that all or most of the aid come with an apron string that attach the donor to the recipient. This is why Jenny Tyson said that foreign aid is used to signal favorable intentions and an ongoing commitment towards a recipient. Some countries, majorly third world nations, always believe that foreign aid actually assists them in achieving some of their national budgets because they are viewing foreign aid from the perspective of that same aid that was given to the European nations after the Second World War that assisted their economy to start kicking again. This makes them to believe that aid is a tool of assistance. So now, one will now have to be wondering, what is the use of the aid that will help the economy of the third world countries to the exportation of primary commodities whose price are determined by the metropolitan state, leaving the economy of the African nations and other third world nations as just a mere appendage of the metropolitan economy? Before this aid comes, the donor will always determine what the aid is to be used for and how they are meant to be used. It's just like a mall giving you a particular amount of voucher that is meant to be spent within the mall. The voucher was given to to you because you have been patronizing that particular mall. And they gave you this voucher because they already know that they have been able to make a lot of profit from you purchasing things from that particular mall. So when they now give you a voucher to be spent in the mall, you now have to sit down and think, are they really giving you assistance, or they are saying thank you for doing business with us? So if you want to give legitimate aid, give aid to promote scientific research that will assist the economy of the third world nations to be manufacturing products that are meant to be exported to developed world. Don't give them aid to keep them as slaves. Don't give them aid to keep them as producers of primary goods like cash crops. Don't give them aid to keep them to build stadiums. Don't give them aid to get weapons. Don't give them weapons to fight themselves and kill themselves. Give them aid for sincere development purpose. Another good example is that of Egypt. Egypt gets about $1.3 billion from United States every year for a particular military aid. While Egypt is still having issues with unemployment, they are still having issues with lack of electricity, and yet you are giving them aid on military aid. What do they need it for? People die more from social insecurity than of military or violent insecurity. If such amount of $1.3 billion is being spent on social infrastructure, a lot of or millions of Egyptians will be uplifted from poverty line. And at the end, you will listen to American foreign policy ministers or American presidents saying that we have unleashed trillions of billions of dollars in forms of aid to African nations. Majority of these aid are military aid, military trainings, and you'll be monetizing those trainings. Some juvenile mind would not understand that this money you're talking about is abstract, is the worth of the aid you are giving. They will see it or view it as you though giving them the cash in hand, as if money was exchanging hands between the federal government of America and the federal government of African countries. But what they were really doing is not giving the money per se. What they are doing in the military assistance is to just collect some of your men, train them, and say, okay, this training worth $5 billion. And as a result, they'll be boasting of an overwhelming aid on African nations. And let it be categorically clear here that this aid also include all the loans that have been given to African nations, the loans that are meant to be paid back. In fact, a particular report added that Africa receive about $133.7 billion each year in form of official aids, grants, loans to private sector, and the rest of them. All of this, they call them aid, the loans, the grants, the trainings, and at the end of the day, they monetize all of them together. No wonder Walter Rodney pointed it out in 1973 that Africa helped to develop the West in the same proportion as the West helped to underdevelop Africa. It has been like that before the birth of Walter Rodney. It has also been like that during the time of Walter Rodney, and it's still the same thing in this contemporary international politics. It will only make sense if African leaders begin to think straight now that should they go for foreign trade or they should continue the foreign aid. Not only African leaders, but all third world countries, because we are all in this together. On your screen, you are going to see top 10 countries that receive aid from the United States. Look at Afghanistan. The red lines is talking about military aid. The blue lines is talking about financial aid, economic aid. And this economic aid, don't forget, includes loans that are meant to be paid back. And in total, they have been able to get about $4.9 billion. Look at Iraq. Iraq have been able to get about $13.4 billion. Israel got about $3.2 billion. The same thing with Jordan. The same thing with Ethiopia. The same thing with South Sudan. In South Sudan, they are giving them loans and they are calling it economic aid. Look at Kenya. Look at Pakistan. Look at the red lines. Look at Nigeria. Look at Uganda. The blue lines are majorly grants and loans, not money that are being given freely. You can imagine the Nigerian looted fund. You can imagine them dictating how the money should be used in Nigeria. Yes, they are trying their best to say, yes, we're trying to assist you. But truth be told, those money had been in their country since before 1998, before the death of Abacha, before the death of Kesarawiwa, before the death of Abiola. Imagine how that money would have been invested in their country. Imagine how much that money will have been used by investors in their country to invest into business, get dividends, get profit, and they are not giving us back the money without the profits or the dividend, and still teaching us or telling us what to do with the money. At the end of the day, who is meant to be blamed? Is it these Western powers or our corrupt leaders that have failed in many ways? If our African leaders are up to the task and have been getting it right and are sincere and have integrity, nobody will come and tell you what to do with your money. You can also imagine United States of America, the amount of money they are investing on military aid. This military aid, they're talking about selling weapons to countries to fight and kill themselves, and you call that aid. All of these will continue if African leaders fail to take their stand, build their nations, invest more in scientific research, invest more in exportation of finished goods, and finally depend on foreign trade if need be and not foreign aid. Alright, in our next class, we'll be dealing with other agents of development and underdevelopment. We will talk about debt crisis and globalization. Okay, if this is your first time that you are watching our videos on this channel, what are you waiting for? Please kindly press the subscribe button below and try to click on the notification bell so as to get a notification anytime we post a new video.